What's the pettiest way someone ever got forced into retirement? A few years ago, I bought a small travel agency in British Columbia. It was a quiet Monday to Friday kind of place, and I had inherited 2 employees from the previous owner. One of them, whom I'll call Jane, had been working there for years and was a master manipulator. She was in her 60s and had a long history of pulling shady moves, booking extra time off, then pretending to work overtime to make it up later. The previous owner had caught her in lies before, but she never fired her. Why? Because Jane had sued her old employer for wrongful termination and won. Nobody wanted to be her next legal target. When I took over, I didn't want to risk a lawsuit either, especially as a single mom raising 2 boys, but I wasn't going to let Jane walk all over me, so I put some rules in place. No more unapproved time off and absolutely no unauthorized overtime. Everything had to go through me. That didn't stop her from trying. She had this little trick. If I stepped out early to take my kids to hockey, Jane would sneakily write herself down as off for the next day without asking. I'd walk into the office the next morning and find out she wasn't coming in. Again, it was annoying, but most of the time, 2 of us could manage. If Jane skipped work, she lost a day's pay or used up her vacation time. I didn't fight her on it. It was actually saving me money. But then came the last straw. I had told both employees that I'd be away for 2 days that week, taking my kids to a hockey tournament. I made it very clear. Nobody was allowed to book time off during those days. I even put it in writing. That weekend, I stopped by the office to check the week's bookings, and there it was. Jane had booked a trip for her daughter and son-in-law to Vegas and a ticket for herself to Calgary, all for the exact same dates I'd be out of town. She even wrote her name on the time off calendar after being explicitly told not to. I didn't confront her right away. Instead, I emailed her, calmly saying her time off request was denied due to my absence and prior notice. She replied with a sob story. Her daughter needed emergency surgery, and she had to fly to Calgary to help with her granddaughter. She said it was a family emergency, not a vacation. I replied, Jane, I know about the Vegas booking. You're going to Calgary to babysit while your daughter parties. I already told you, those dates aren't available. That's when Jane pulled her classic guilt trip. She sent an emotional email about how she'd given so much to the company and how it hurt to be treated so poorly. Then she said, since I'm no longer valued, I have no choice but to retire. Consider this my 2 weeks notice. Now, here's where things changed. I called my accountant and explained everything. He said, this is it. You finally have an out. She quit in writing. Pay her 2 weeks wages and you're done. No severance, no lawsuit risk. So on Monday morning, I came in early with my boyfriend as a witness. I boxed up Jane's personal items, except one thing, a small file box of client information she kept at her desk. She never used the computer system. All her client records, names, phone numbers, even credit card numbers were on those index cards. That box belonged to the business. Just before 9, Jane walked in, all smiles. Good morning. I stood up and said, no need to get settled, Jane. I've accepted your retirement notice. Here's a check for your hours worked plus 2 weeks pay. Her face went pale. What? I didn't retire. I'm not ready to retire. You gave notice in writing. It's all there. She panicked, tried to get the other employee on her side. That didn't work. Then she noticed the index card box was missing. I want my client files, she snapped. Those are the company's files, I said. You can't take those. It would violate Canadian privacy laws. She refused to leave. So we called the police. 2 officers showed up within minutes. Jane stormed out to the sidewalk, yelling that she'd been fired and that we were withholding her property. One officer stayed with me while the other listened to Jane. After we explained the contents of the box and showed them the email chain, both officers agreed it was business property. They handed Jane her box of personal belongings and told her to go home. And just to put the cherry on top, the next day, I put a big sign in the office window. Congratulations, Jane, on your retirement. I even ran a retirement announcement in the local newspaper. And on the official government form under reason for leaving, I checked the box. Retired, which meant Jane was not eligible for unemployment benefits. She wanted to play games? Well, she just played herself.